Knoll Nation, welcome into the Renegade Rundown number 10. Got my guy in here. You'll have to tell me if I say it right. I probably should have handled this in production. Brian Seigla from the Boundary Corner podcast, Virginia Tech expert, very great guy, man. Thanks for joining us. How's it going today, brother?
Going good, and you nailed the name. Good job. First try. Way to nail it. Yeah, it's going
Well,
good. It's going good tonight.
My name is Georgitis, so I do pretty good on the pronunciations over. I've heard it all over the years. People like to throw letters in there, like phantom letters, when they see a tough name and stuff. And even I on yours, I'm not going to say how I was pronouncing it, but for like the first 2 days that I was corresponding with you, I had it all messed up. I thought it was Seigla and this and that. And finally, I'm like, dude, I got to get this guy's name right. But again, thanks for joining us. I was just telling you in the production room, big news out of the NCAA today. Before we get started on the Virginia Tech stuff, Tez Walker, the North Carolina wide receiver, gets his waiver today. The NCAA comes out and says Tez Walker is eligible, should have been eligible the whole time. It's UNC's fault that he wasn't eligible. They didn't report everything. We were talking off air, and I was like, man, if you ask me, and if you ask most Florida State fans, that sentence at the end where they say, oh, well, North Carolina, didn't, put in all of information, and he should have been eligible the whole time. To me, that's basically a get out of jail card for them. Trying to save face. It was a bit more of an outrage over Tez and the Daryl Jackson situation, given his eligibility. But they put that in there so they could make him eligible without Daryl Jackson. I know you guys had a situation like this with a receiver a couple years ago. What do you think about this whole situation, man? I'm fired up, but I guess I could get an outside perspective on it. Do you think it's pretty messed up or what?
Yeah, I mean, we had a situation with Raheem Blackshear getting an approval a couple years back. That came in late. I think ended up like right before the season started. That waiver got approved. But the Brock Hoffman situation, offensive lineman, I believe it was for the 2019 season, where he transferred from Coastal Carolina, wanted to be closer to home. He's he actually lived, his family's from kind of out there near Wake Forest, so about a 50-minute drive, kind of right in that halo that you like to see for moving closer to home. Mother was having a lot of medical problems at the time, so that was kind of one of the driving factors there, and didn't get approved. Big free Brock Hoffman movement by Hokie Nation that year, but nothing ever came out of it. He filed his he wanted a waiver for it after the first denial. Still got turned down again. So when you see something like this, it definitely raises your eyebrows a little bit, especially thinking about some of the other ways UNC has kind of gotten a little bit of a leg up on folks in the past on things like this. So it just
missing the death penalty.
It rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah, it just seems like Tobacco Road, whether it's within the ACC or the NCAA, it just seems like things fall their way. It's why I was kind of surprised that they denied it to begin with, but it's like, seems like the Daryl Jackson forced their hand on Tez Walker, and then they regretted it. Some of the backlash they were getting it. I'm not sure what exactly, but that's pretty funny. Your situation really mirrors ours, because right after y'all got denied, then they opened it up and anybody can transfer. And he would have got it in 20 or 21. And here we are, they change it, and it's the exact opposite situation. And it's the same thing with Daryl Jackson. His mom has medical issues, serious medical issues, and that's the whole reason. Like, he came to Florida State. He was on the fence about it. He was thinking about, at one point, even going back to Miami, but everything in the rules said he was going to be good. Then the kid shows up, and you lose a year eligibility. It's just terrible. Florida State fans, keep writing your tweets, sending letters to the NCAA, whatever you can do. All we can do is hope, and we'll see what happens. Worst case comes, we'll have them next year, but you hate to see a kid lose an extra year of eligibility just on a whim outside of the spirit of the rule. And, kids that are enrolled and you change a rule, I just can't get over it. But anyways, enough ranting on that. We've got a big game coming up. Finally, the Noles get back home. We've only had one home game, 2 games on the road in conference, and then the neutral site to start the year. We've got a 3-game home stretch starting with Virginia Tech, a game we weren't, really looking at the beginning of the year. It seemed like, okay, this could be tough. They came out, had a rough kind of 3 weeks, but kind of like Florida State in 2021, they may have found their answer at quarterback, and it's in the form of a mobile quarterback. who was just out there making plays last week, and I'm scared of him. The guy's name is Tyrone Drones, I believe. He's not the same thing we saw in Boston College, and a 5'10", really super athletic, shifty kind of shortstop type athlete in Castellanos. But he can move. He's going to be converting first downs, and it's going to be a big challenge for the FSU defense. How does it feel, man? What do you think about Tyrone? Do you think he's going to be the guy moving forward? Are you pretty excited about him taking over the reins?
I'm very excited. I actually called that he should be the starter after the spring game. Obviously, the coaches felt differently, but and I get it. Coming in, he had actually not started a game. He transferred from Baylor. He came in a couple contests. One in particular when the starter went down when they were playing West Virginia last year. Came in, played pretty well, kind of fought to the end. They ended up losing a close one late in that one, but really still raw, but you can tell that he's a gamer, and he's starting to really kind of put the pieces together as far as his being comfortable in the offense that Tyler Bowen's running now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do and kind of take some next steps, because every start you see kind of a little bit more and a little bit more from him. And, you talked about Castellanos and kind of comparing the two. He's a little bit more of a battering ram than Castellanos. He's got speed, and he can run away from you in the open field, but he's 6'3", 230, so he's going to be able to push the pile a little bit on those short yardages, be really dangerous in those quarterback lead type things, and also he's really good at making the right read in the zone read game too.
Yeah, that'll be real interesting to see. It seems like, man, this year Florida State on both sides of the ball has been a lot better in short yardage situations, so that'll definitely be something to look at if y'all stay on schedule and get into third and shorts, for him to be able to run it up the middle. We've had a lot of trouble with third and long conversions this year. It just seems like we play great defense on first and second down, and then Castellanos, we'd play soft defense, and they'd run crossers and he'd run right down the middle or whatever the case may be. It's going to be really interesting, seeing a mobile quarterback come in there that we've had all this trouble against, and you guys are kind of on the rise. Here we are coming off a bye week. It's going to be a really, really fun matchup. I'm not extremely familiar with you guys, obviously. We do Florida State around here. What we were talking about before the show, it's kind of hard just to keep up with your team, much less everybody else. But
oh yeah,
when it comes to wide receiver, I guess who are the top options for him? Who do you guys look to be like the big factor for y'all on offense? Like, who does our defense need to be game planning for, I guess, in that aspect?
Yeah, so the guy that I think probably can do the most damage is Jalen Lane. He's transferred from Middle Tennessee this year. Really fast slot receiver, good hands. Actually caught one of the long touchdowns that we had against Pitt last week. He's the guy that's going to kind of burn you over the middle a little bit and can make you miss an open field. The other big guy is going to be Daquan Felton. He's going to be the primary outside receiver. Really big body guy. He's actually a transfer from Norfolk State. That you're going to hear that a lot, because most of our playmakers on offense are transfers. Our quarterback, our running back, pretty much all of our primary wide receivers, really the tight end position and the offensive line are the only areas that we don't have a transfer player that's playing a significant role right now. So a lot of new faces, and I think we're starting to kind of hit our stride with those guys being comfortable with each other. So Jalen Lane and Daquan Felton are going to be the big playmakers. Also look for Daquan Wright. He's kind of a joker type tight end that can make some plays and really create some matchup problems.
Man, that's, it's really amazing what the transfer portal has been able to do. We're in the same boat. I mean, you look at our offense across the board. Jordan Travis has been here 5 years, but he's a transfer. Johnny Wilson, our one outside receiver, transfer. The other receiver, Keon Coleman, transfer. Tight end, Jaheim Bell, transfer. Morlock, transfer. Even along the offensive line, our left tackle, Robert Scott, he's a high school guy, but him and Maury Smith, but the other three guys, I believe, are all transfers. So it's one of these things to where for years and years and years, teams would, like a Georgia or Alabama, could hold talent up, in the third and fourth strings, give guys gray shirts, or a guy in the D2 would just become an absolute stud and just, have 1,000,000 yards for 3 or 4 years straight. Those guys are kind of finding their way to where they can play. And it's great to see a Virginia Tech, get some guys out of the portal and be able to put it together. you're seeing a lot of teams really, what you've always seen teams grow along the year, but a team like, especially during this portal era, it seems like the team you see in September versus the team you see in November, December. I mean, they can be just completely different. You see teams really, really coming together. I mean, especially like us, really 21, 22, 23 each year. It seems like the beginning is a little rough, and hopefully that trend continues, and Florida State can keep it going in a positive direction.
Yeah, we're
But
hoping we kind of mirror what you guys were doing in 21. We hope we have that type of year, this year and kind of turn it around a little bit as we go along there because, it's been some tough sled for us the end of the Fuente era and just the talent dearth that we had last year, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It's been kind of rough to watch, but I think we're starting to get some of the players in there. So if we can continue that upward trajectory that the Seminoles saw, that'd be kind of what we're looking for. Obviously, not everybody can pull a Dion and turn a team around in the portal like that every year, right? So I'm okay with a little bit of steady progress as long as I keep seeing some results, and was getting a little concerned to start it off, but hopefully, Pitt is the start of something where we can say, all right, well, I'm seeing the progress, right? I'm seeing the progress. I'm seeing the steps that I want to see to feel comfortable moving forward.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was wanting to ask you, I guess most people, myself included, and also like casual kind of ACC fans, are kind of used to the Flinty era. That was kind of like the taste that's in everybody's mouth about Virginia Tech here the past 3 or 4 years. How has that coaching, change went? And are you pretty impressed? Just how are you feeling about the new coach? And I guess we've already talked about it a little bit with the portal, but going forward, what are the differences in the program with the new offense versus when y'all had Fuente in there?
So I think we're at a little bit of a crossroads right now because we've got a first time head coach and two first time coordinators. So I feel like everyone's kind of learning on the job a little bit. They're all talented. They all know what they're doing, but they don't have a ton of experience. Pry being the guy, and the other two guys being the primary play callers and architects of the offense and defense. So there's still some growing pains there, and I think that's what you're seeing some of that play out on the field. Obviously, the talent wasn't there last year, but there were a couple games where some coaching decisions I think overall cost us a game or two there. But I think also in the other direction, some coaching won us. I'd say the Liberty game last year, just as an example. So it's kind of at a crossroads. Off the field and in the off season, I've seen night and day turnover compared to Fuente. Like Pry has won every press conference. He's built our recruiting back in the state of Virginia and in general to at least the levels that we were used to when Beamer was here. So we're kind of getting our footing back on that front. I think we just need to start seeing the wins come in to kind of really feel like we're doing the right thing. And like I said, games like Purdue and Marshall, losing those were frustrating because I think even on paper we probably had more talent and we didn't get it done. A game like Rutgers, I think that could have went either way. They've got a talented quarterback, a couple of good playmakers on defense, but I think this team, if we'd have done a few more things right, particularly maybe starting Drones at the start of the season over Grant Wells, you might be one or two games better heading into this week. But I feel like some of the pieces got put together against Pitt last week. I know that's not necessarily a great Pitt team, but they are still a Pat Narduzzi coach team. That they're fairly sound on defense, and they can like to take big plays and big shots on offense. We were able to kind of stop most of the game. So you kind of feel good about that, even though it's not necessarily the best Pitt team that we've seen in the last 5 years. Overall, like I said, we had Pry on back in, I think it was May, and, great guy. Like I said, when he's did everything he can off the field to get Tech back where we need to be. We just need to start seeing the wins kind of stack up there.
Yeah, he seems super comfortable, and the more we talk about it, the more the similarities between 21 kind of emerge. We start out taking Notre Dame to overtime, and then you turn around the the third game and lose to Jacksonville State. Man, and then you have a tough, nail biter with Louisville, then you lose, and then we took off. 5 of 7, and it's on like a pot of neck bones ever since. But my guy Chris Frazier with Spear Addicts Media has a good question here. What's Virginia Tech's best and worst units on the offense and defense in your estimation?
Offense is definitely offensive line. It's not even close. We're
Worst unit or
probably
best?
that's going to be the worst unit. Worst unit is the offensive line. Um, it's really bad right now. The right side is very poor. The left side is good but inexperienced. And then we've got a center that actually moved from guard. So there's just been a lot of pieces that aren't quite fitting together yet. And some of that has to do with the fact that this offseason, Joe Rudolph was our offensive line coach last year heading into the offseason. He wasn't a big fan of adding guys in the portal, wanted to build from within. Now he's at Notre Dame. And that happened just before the spring game, so there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for Coach Crook to get in there and hit the portal and really kind of backfill that position very well. So,
Especially this year.
Yeah, and you always get a better window in that winter transfer portal than you get after the spring, especially offensive line. So that's really been probably the biggest problem for us so far. As far as best unit on offense, I'd probably say our wide receiver group, which is really shocking considering last year I would have said that was either our worst or second to worst. But we really hit the portal hard. Brought in 3 transfer wide receivers. We've had a couple guys that have stepped up and really developed from last year to this year. So I'd say that's probably our strongest group on the offensive side of the ball. Turn to defense, I would have to say our cornerback room is really steady. Mansour Delane is a future star. He's going to be a guy that you're going to be talking about in some all ACC caliber player pretty soon, if not this year, next year. Dorian Strong, he's putting together a pretty solid campaign. Still hasn't quite hit the highs that we saw him hit out the gate, but he's very, very steady player. And Canteen that transferred in nickel corner has shown good versatility, been able to actually line up at safety some along with Delane when we've had some injuries there because we're really thin at that position. So that versatility has really helped us. As far as worst unit on the defense, that's kind of tough. I'm going to go linebackers right now, but it's mostly due to the inexperience. We had Dax Hollifield was kind of the center point of that defense for several years there, going back to 2018. And I think it's lacking some leadership and experience right now. Those are talented guys, but there's not a lot of leadership there yet. And I think if that can come together, I know Kelly Lawson's starting to step into that role, playing the wheel backer there. He's stepping into that role some, but that's probably the weakest unit right now in terms of consistency because we've had some problems with run fits and things like that looked a lot better against Pitt, but every other game this season so far has looked pretty rough.
Yeah, not to get into the woods too much, but as far as y'all's defense, do y'all we run a 4-2-5, so we pretty much stay in a 4-2-5 the whole time. Do y'all run more of a traditional 4-3 or 3-4?
Yeah, it's a 4-3. We do use kind of a hybrid Sam star linebacker. So that position is that we actually have a dedicated coach for that position. Marv coaches the other 2 positions. And we do go to a true nickel package on a pretty regular basis, though, and that's where Canteen comes in there.
Okay, so y'all will run some 3-4 or some 4-3 over and under stuff. And y'all just have the linebacker coach from Florida State. What did you say his name was?
Yeah, Coach Marv. Yeah.
Coach Marv, Chris Marv. That's right. Chris Marv made it over there. That's awesome.
Yeah,
man, he's an awesome guy. And talk about a fiery dude, a linebacker at heart. Really enjoyed his time at Florida State. So he's coaching your inside linebackers, and y'all have a separate guy for the Sam. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Sean Quinn's coaching the Sam. We're calling it the Star now. We called it the Sam last year, so they got to change terminology a little bit on us, but that's okay. I can keep up. But yeah, Coach Quinn's been really good too. I mean, I'd say he's been a big benefit on the recruiting trail. Dude stays on the road. He's really going out there and stamping the pavement and getting some jobs done on the recruiting trail for us. So, and then we've got a couple young guys that are playing behind our starter at that position that are true freshmen. So Really, really excited to see their development.
Heck yeah, man. We've had some health issues along the offensive line. Our center Maury Smith played the last couple weeks, but he's been injured, so this bye week is going to be huge. Also, Robert Scott had an unspecified injury, but has been practicing. Um, those are going to be big for us. We've struggled to run the ball. How much have you seen of us this year? We went up against some pretty tough defenses in Clemson and Boston College. Not so much LSU. The more and more tape gets out there, but just running the ball consistently has been a struggle. Losing Trayshawn Ward to Kansas State has been a part of that, and having Trey Benson kind of fall into that true number one role and have to make kind of all the runs has been a little bit of an adjustment. But that I do expect us to try to run the ball against y'all, and it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But I could also see, some of those young linebackers having some good games if Trey Benson hits the wrong hole here, or whatever the case may be. If Smith can't go at center, so that'll be a big matchup I'm going to want to see. We have one of the guys, ML1219, asked, does drones remind you of an AR-15 type? I'm thinking maybe closer to a Cade Klubnik, maybe. In that, what do you think? If you had to make a comparison for drones,
That's a really good question. I'm a Colts fan too, so that definitely hits close to home as well. So um, I'd say a little bit closer to Klubnik. Um, he's definitely a guy that eats pretty well in, like I said, in the zone read game. But he finishes his runs. He runs through contact. He'll go down when it's smart to go down, but he's a guy that can push the pile a little bit on you and make those plays in the open field. He the run he had against Marshall on the opening drive, broke about two or three tackles right at the point of attack, and then was able to run away from everybody. So he's got a little bit of that in his game. I'd say in terms of accuracy wise, I'd say he's closer to AR-15 on that side. He's still developing as a true thrower, but he's got a cannon. He can let it rip deep. He's starting to get hit on those deeper balls a little more the last couple weeks. So if that continues to trend upwards, I like where we're heading there. But pretty good accuracy in the short passing game, and he's starting to get comfortable with his wide receivers, which is a really good sign.
Heck yeah, man. You spoke. We got to get into it. I know it's tough. If you know anything about Florida State, from like 2015, really it started in 14, all the way up until 2021. Offensive line was a major issue at Florida State. We were constantly undersized, constantly fighting injuries, not enough guys on the depth chart, etc. We got Alex Atkins in, and it's been a big boon for us. We've steadily climbed and gotten better and better. I talked to you a little bit about health. You mentioned that they're kind of, I guess the weaker point on your team. Florida State's defensive line, we're super proud of it. We like to think we're one of the best 10 units in the nation. It hasn't looked like that every week. We're still working in some transfers, and Gilbert Edmond. Braden Fisk has been great. It seems like he gets held, like rock bottomed on every single play, and the ACC refs are just not going to call holding on him reverse all year.
They don't call holding at all. I mean, that's just they don't call
just
holding.
One of those things. But is there anything specific on the offensive line matchup you're looking at? Are they going to do anything to try to, y'all maybe do a lot of max protection, chipping, stuff like that? Or
I feel like we're going to chip anywhere Jared Verse is. I mean, he scares the living crap out of me right now because I know his stats are not what you'd like to see right now, but he is impact. Like if you watch the tape, he impacts every play. Like he's not getting home right now. He's not making a ton of actual tackles, things that show up on the stat sheet, but he is impacting every play. So seeing what he's been able to do really scares me, especially if he gets matched up against our right tackle. So that's my biggest concern right now. Overall, is that I feel like our weakest spot is our right side, particularly right tackle. And I'm hoping that we're able to scheme up some things to either take some pressure off of that or have enough success in the run game where that slows down that pass rush a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out, man. The narratives out there and the people talking, it's like ridiculous because you're absolutely right. When you look at Pro Football Focus and the different advanced metrics, they've got him up there, in the top three in just about every category. But like you said, guys are just chipping, defensive coordinators are game planning. The sacks aren't there, but he is definitely making his presence felt. And it's kind of
Yeah,
scary, I guess, on y'all's end because it's like, seems like he's due to break out any game now. I would love for it to be this one, but I guess we will see. Is your right tackle? I guess is that if you had to, is that the main side you're worried about that you're going to have help over there, or is it just
yeah.
more just wherever versus?
I think it could be wherever Verse is. I know like a lot of so far this year, it looks like everybody's either chipping him and in the run game, kind of running away from him or trying to get outside of him. So I think we might try to do something similar. We've kind of seen a little bit more focus on some of the toss game, trying to get outside the tackle box and not let our weakness kind of define us. Let our skill players kind of get outside, make some plays there. So I feel like we might do that some. That might slow him down a little bit since he'll have to kind of be moving away from the quarterback a little bit and have to be in pursuit a little bit more. That might slow down the rush a little bit. So hopefully that is. But yeah, right tackle and the right side in general is kind of where my biggest concern is as far as holding up against that rush.
Yeah. All right, guys. So just for everybody in here knows, my guy Brian, he is a co-host of the Boundary Corner podcast. It's at Boundary Corner VT right here on YouTube, and you can find him on Twitter, X as they call it now. They're over on Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Make sure you all go check them out. They did an episode, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, called "Know Thy Enemy" or something like that. But anyways, I'm not sure if there's anything you wanted to know about Florida State, anything you were wondering about. I figured I'd open the floor to you if there's anything you're wondering on our end about matchups or anything like that.
Yeah, the biggest thing I've been looking at is Johnny Wilson. That's a big dude. That's a big
Man,
dude. What? How do y'all deploy him in terms of like getting some good matchups in the passing game?
so Johnny Wilson, man, he has the potential to just be like Mike Evans, unreal, just great receiver. He's had some issues with drops this year, really, especially in that LSU game. And the team, they didn't get down on him. They immediately, the next game, Southern Miss forced the ball to him, get him right, get him some good catches. They really put him all over the place. He's primarily going to be outside, running deep, etc. But they'll put him inside at the slot and run him on crossers and move him all over. One-on-one balls, it seems like he makes the toughest, craziest highlight Sports Center top 10 plays. You'll see 3 or 4 of them every game. But as crazy it seems like when he blows wide open and he's right there and you throw it, that's when he has issues with drops and things. So it's pretty straightforward, man. They're just throwing up a lot of 50-50 balls to Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman outside. That's been kind of one of the complaints, I guess you would give from the fan base, is wanting to see more stuff inside. So it would not surprise me at all to see him lined up more in the slot, running more slants and in-breaking routes this game versus what
Okay.
you've seen on film all year. But they will definitely just send him down the field and chunk it up. If y'all are running man coverage on either him or Coleman, they're going to go to it for sure. A lot of fades and a lot of posts.
Yeah, when I was watching the tape, I primarily looked at BC and LSU, and it looked like BC they used him a lot more in the slot than they did against LSU. Saw him on crossers, some digs, a couple seams. So it looks like he's a guy that can eat from the middle of the field if you get him open and get him matched up 1-on-1. So that's probably like one of my bigger concerns in the passing game is matching up against him.
He probably
Coleman,
dropped 2 or 3. Like those were the
yeah.
ones he dropped, is those crossers, man. Ooh, if he just grabbed
Yeah.
them.
And Coleman looks like they've used him a lot on like those fades in the red zone. They really let him eat in the red zone because he has a lot of touchdowns for compared to his yards. If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he's at 6, I think. 6 and like 500, maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been the touchdown guy this year for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Jordan Travis, but he's kind of the do it all, man. He's been tearing it up, running the ball and throwing it. So
yeah, he had a stinger on his, I believe, left shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder, and that kind of affected him really the past 2 games. We're really hoping he's a lot more healthy, this week. But I'm really interested to see, to flip it over to the defensive side, how you guys are going to attack him. Man coverage, obviously, we don't see a ton of it usually because if you turn your back, he'll run. But in the past couple games with that stinger, it seems people were running a lot more, man press man coverage and really trying to speed him up, knowing that he wasn't going to pull on those zone reads, keying on the running backs, not even giving him a second thought. And you saw him run late in that Clemson game when he absolutely had to. But what do you think? You think y'all have a spy on him? Do you think? What do you think the best plan is, or what they may do going on defense against to try to keep him in the pocket?
Yeah, I think we might have a spy just to kind of contain some of that. I mean, he had such a great game against LSU. I mean, that was really a standout performance. Up and down against Boston College. But I think the way we'll attack, I mean, we definitely bring a lot of pressure. We don't probably bring as much pressure as we would like to. Um, and especially in a game like this, I don't think we probably bring quite as much. I think we play it a little bit safer on the back end. Um, but at the same time, I feel like we're going to have a spy out there at some point um, throughout the game to kind of keep that in check. Especially coming off a bye, I feel like there might be some chance to get a little bit on the men there, and he might be ready to kind of run it back to the way he started the season.
Yeah, if there's one thing Norvell and the staff does well is kind of prepare, especially if they have time for those opening game scripts. Really, kind of be interested to see if they have any, called runs for him. I guess that'll tell the story kind of early how he's feeling if they're running him early on or whatnot. Because if he can't run, that's one of the biggest things in this game, I guess, that I'm worried about. If he's still not pulling that and y'all can really, kind of concentrate on the running back and not have to worry about him running, it can be a long day. Um,
Yeah, if we could
I
attack the
guess,
mesh and not have to slow play it, I mean that would be that makes it a lot easier on us.
yeah, when you go back and look at the tape, like his big plays, like against Florida at the end of the year, just him running and, making guys miss and really extending plays downfield. Kind of the narrative that I've heard a lot this year is that the difference between this year's Jordan Travis and last year's Jordan Travis is this year he's scrambling to look downfield. I think that's more of a misnomer. If you actually watched Jordan Travis last year, a lot of the highlight plays are him running around in the backfield and running for touchdowns, but he only had 400 rushing yards. Like last year, it was the same thing. It kind of came out first game against Louisville. He wants to throw it. If there's any way he can throw it before running, he's going to throw it. And even to a certain point, it's like, man, if you're looking at the first down sticks and there's nobody there on a third or fourth down, just run for it. Don't throw the fade. That's kind of a aggravation among Florida State fans. But that's just Monday morning quarterbacking. He's been amazing. I'm not here to crap on Jordan Travis. He's the man. I said back in 2021 when we went on that stretch that hey, this dude with a good team around him has a chance to be a Heisman contender. But
Yeah,
all that hinges on him leveraging the defensive line and the offensive lines with his running ability. It backs the linebackers up. It just does everything, and it's unbelievable what it does for the running game. Everything. That's really from 20 and 21, 22, those games that we were able to win. It was because of him leveraging that line of scrimmage and really changing the game. And you saw it anytime a backup quarterback came in. I mean, it's just the offensive line could not protect. It was game over. They were running for their lives. So
yeah,
finally this year we have a line where we feel like you could have a Tate Rodemaker out there or more of a pocket quarterback and be in games and win them. But his running on top of that is what makes it excellent, what makes it a Heisman contender. So that'll be a big part of the game for me.
yeah. And
Um,
looking at the Virginia Tech side, I mean, when we talk about how poor we feel the offensive line is, having drones in there versus Grant Wells has been a big boost for the offense. Not only do you have the rushing threat that you have to actually account for now, but just his athletic ability to break tackles, a little more improvisation in the backfield. You just don't get that with Grant Wells. I mean, he's pretty much a guy that he's fast enough where if you give him a lane, he's going to get you a first down, but he's not a guy that's going to make something out of nothing.
Right.
So
I haven't made a prediction on this thing. It's really hard given y'all's turn of events here, finding the quarterback, us coming off of the bye and getting a lot of people back. If I knew that our safety, Akeem Dent, was going to play, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with my pick. That's kind of up in the air. We're pretty much expecting the offensive line to be back healthy, but if Akeem Dent plays versus not plays is going to be a really big one. But I'll put myself on the line. If I'm going to make a prediction right now, it's in Tallahassee, a big home game. There's a lot on the line. It's like we've already, have experienced the trap game of Boston College. I don't feel like there's going to be any issues with the team getting up or anything like that. But I also think running quarterbacks have given us trouble all year. So y'all are going to put up some points. Right now, I'm probably at something like 38-21. Not something crazy. I don't think we cover. But I feel like hopefully, especially given what you told me about the offensive line, that in the fourth quarter they should be able to kind of wear it down and take it over if things go to plan. Where are you at on it, man? How are you feeling about the matchup? If you want to give a prediction, I'm not sure if you have something planned later this week or whatever.
No, I dropped my prediction on when we recorded Tuesday night and put it out there Wednesday. So I've got 38-28, so I'm not too far off from what you got. And I think that our offense is starting to put things together. I think we've shown scheme wise, like Tyler Bowen has really started to adapt how he calls plays towards what Kyron Drones does best. So I feel like we keep that going. I'm hoping and can score some points. I don't think we score enough, and I don't think we do enough on defense to slow y'all down like we need to. But I think a 38-28 game would make me feel pretty good, backed up to what we did against Pitt, because
absolutely.
At least it's showing. All right, we're taking some steps. Our offense is finding some consistency. We know you guys are going to put up points. I mean, that's just that is what it is. You put up points pretty much against every team you played so far. So I'm just interested to see if we can keep pace and show some fight and show that we can compete with a top 10 team.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've scored, I believe, 30 points in 10. I get it confused. I know we're on a 10-game winning streak, but yeah, we've hit 30 points at least 10 games in a row, I'm pretty sure. But we've also given up. We gave up 30-something to Oklahoma. We gave up 30-something to Florida last year. We gave up 24 to LSU. So people have been scoring. So, yeah, I could definitely see that. But it's not for a foregone conclusion. It's not like y'all aren't going to be in there to battle. So we got to come out and be on our best behavior. But I think kind of the main issue should be that offensive line. If our defensive line can handle business there and stop the run and keep y'all's guy in the pocket, I think the score will end up being something like we're talking about, maybe with a couple scores late. But if dude can get loose and start converting those third downs and get our defense tired, I mean, who knows? It could end up definitely being one of those shootouts and nerve-wracking games where I'm biting all my fingernails off. Because if there's one thing I've learned watching college football, the transitive property does not work. And these teams that you watch go out here and look like this against this team, and that team does not mean that that's what they're going to look like against you. My big thing when we talk to I've had somebody on every week from the other side pretty much. I fall back on the matchups. It's like I love the matchups across the board. There aren't any big, kind of scary things, that scare me. But at the same time, they've got to go out there and play. The other team gets, their coach gets paid, all that good stuff. I like pride. I like where y'all are going with it. I guess if there's one thing before I get you out of here, that kind of one key stat, is there something that you see? Does he need to run for 100 yards? Do y'all need to hold us to 50 yards rushing, et cetera? Is there something like that that's just a real key for you guys to be able to hang in there and compete and have this thing be a game in the fourth quarter?
I honestly think just running game in general. If we're over, I'd say 175 yards rushing, I feel like we at least kept that game close, and it was coming down to the wire in the fourth quarter. I can see where in the fourth quarter talent comes into play because we do have some depth issues. But if we're rushing for over 175 yards on the ground, then I think we're at least keeping it close until that part comes into play.
Yeah, no doubt. I will be stressing if y'all are up over 100 yards going into the fourth quarter. I'll probably be stressing on my end of it too. Well, since you brought that up, one big thing we haven't talked about is this new clock rule. And for teams that like to run the ball, for teams that like to run the clock, it's amazing. But teams that just kind of like, especially these air raids that like to base it on the running game, like your Baylor spread, etc., that like to run the ball, you'd only get 2-3 possessions in the first half. It's really, really shortened these first halves of these games. And for a team like y'all that's trying to put it together and get better every week, it's got to be frustrating. It seems like you blink 2 or 3 possessions and it's over. It doesn't bother me too much because, kind of the position we're in. But if it was 2021, I'd be hating life. It just seems like the first halves go over so fast and you might end up the whole game with 5 or 6 possessions. And it's like, how much progress can you make on offense in a game with only 50, 60 plays each game versus it used to be 70, 80, 90 plays in the previous years?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a concern. I'd say just especially in a matchup like we had this week where we know the other team is going to put some points on the board. You feel like you don't want to be chasing points, but at the same time, you don't want to have empty possessions either, right? So, as we're getting better, as we're growing, it'll probably matter less. But yeah, it's especially to start the year, and especially when drones took over, a couple weeks back. If we can get some more possessions, get that quarterback more comfortable with his weapons, the more of that, the better. And we just fewer opportunities are definitely probably hurting some of that growth. But like I said, hopefully Pitt was kind of that get right game overall, and we can start seeing more consistency where we can put up those points consistently and kind of keep things moving.
Absolutely, and I'd love to see it, man. Virginia Tech, y'all's whole. I haven't got to go to a game. I'm hoping that maybe I can go if we play in a couple of years, if we're still in the conference, I guess. I'd like to go check that out, the whole Inner Sandman thing. And I mean, you guys have known, I like hearing that your DBs are kind of a strength of the defense. Y'all have been known as one of those kind of alternate DBUs out there. Y'all always played great defense. And of course, the whole Beamer ball, that's one thing I forgot to mention earlier. How are you feeling about special teams? Are y'all starting to get back to that elite special teams play, or is that still a work in progress? Is the Beamer ball still going on around there?
I'd say it's a work in progress. We've seen a lot better play this year than we saw last year. Peter Moore's booming kicks again, so that's helped us get good field position, maintain field position. We've seen we've got really 2 punt returners that have, they're a little scary for opposing teams. Jalen Lane's fielding some of there. We got Tucker Holloway, who was honorable mention kick returner at the end of last year, and he really only started returning punts like week 8 last year. So it was kind of wild that he was able to kind of pull that in there that quick. But he ended up returning one like 80 some yards for a touchdown, and had a couple other really big punt returns to close the year last year to really kind of step that up. And he's done pretty well so far this year. He's a little nicked, so hasn't quite been able to run away from folks as much as he did last year, but still looks really good, really good vision on those punt returns. So look good there. I'd like to see us block a kick. We did have one snap that went through the end zone against ODU in the opener, but we haven't really seen any block kicks or block field goals or anything like that we're used to back in the Beamer ball days, where you can really swing a game with those type of plays.
No doubt. He definitely needs to do it. We've had punt return has been tough for us. It's been hard to come by a punt returner the past decade, really. We've got Keon Coleman back there, and he does a great job, probably the best job we've had in a couple of years of just fielding it if it needs to be fielded, or judging whether it's going to go out of the back of the end zone. So I'm pretty happy with him. But as far as being a weapon, we haven't had too much back there. But I will say coverage has been fantastic for us this year versus prior years. So hopefully you don't get that punt return on us. Our coverage has been great, and we do have a weapon at punter. Mastromano, he has an off kick here or there, but he's one of these Australian punters that can do it right or left, and he's pretty good about rolling out and getting them kicks where they're at. So hopefully that won't be too much of a big impact on the game. And our kicker, finally, we have Fitzgerald, man. He really struggled last year. Somebody got into his ear about changing his rhythm up, doing I believe a 2-step drop instead of a 3-step drop to get him ready for the NFL. And man, it's night and day this year versus last year since he's got that all
That's
together.
Awesome. I'm just glad that we're playing the Seminoles again. It feels like it's been too long.
Man,
thinking back to and thinking back to like some of the better matchups. We had a couple, ACC championship games. Obviously, a national championship game before Virginia Tech was part of the ACC. I'm still seeing Peter Warwick run for touchdowns in that game. Unfortunately, Mike Vick tried his best to carry that team, and it worked for 3 quarters. Back, and at fourth quarter, I feel like he was just drained. He had given all he could, man.
Yeah, that was unreal, man. Talk about some days. Did y'all take the lead? I believe y'all got up 25-24, and then we scored 18 straight.
Took the lead kind of late third, and then y'all kind of closed it out in the fourth there.
Mike Vick was unreal. Talk about a guy being before his time. If we could see Mike Vick come into the league now, because I love Lamar, he's great, he's the beast, but Mike was just a different thing. It was a lot of fun. He was like a true running back, just back there that could sling it 70 yards.
Yeah, I mean, think about peak Mike Vick in a spread offense, or
oh my goodness.
I mean, it would have been crazy, man. We were running, triple option and more like pro style fullback. We were just kind of lining we didn't even use him as a weapon. He just made plays. If we had an entire offense that was designed around his skill set, I mean, it's incredible what he would have been able to do.
Back in them days, they made it like trigonometry. I mean, it's great. It's the NFL, and that's the level you're trying to get to. And those offenses were crazy hard and stuff. But yeah, it's unreal the past 10 years how far they've came into building offenses around the skill sets and making the terminology easier, being able to look over at a cardboard cutout and Kim Kardashian. That means run it up the gut, stuff like that. So it's really great, man. Thanks for coming on, man. I had a blast. I think I'm about to run out of power here, but if there's anything else you want to promote or any more questions you have on here before we get off, man, shoot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good to go. I appreciate you having me on. Anybody interested in Hokie football out there that's listening, come check us out over at Boundary Corner. We've been doing this thing now this is our 4th year, and we got a pretty good setup there. We break down tape. We do a little bit of everything. So whatever you would want to find from a Hokie podcast, we got it. So come check us out.
And that is no joke. And I feel a lot more knowledgeable about Virginia Tech after getting to talk to you, man. It was a pleasure. Man, we'll see what happens, but I'm sure excited for you. You going to get to make it to the game?
I'm not. I'm going to actually be over with my buddy. I'm actually heading over to his house. One of my co-hosts, Curtis Wilson. We got a poker game going on tonight, so I'm heading over there for a little bit, and he's going to be hanging out with us this weekend. So looking forward to the game.
Alrighty, man. Well, it was a blast. You know what we say over here. It's all about the Noles. Hell with everything orange. We don't mess with no orange, but glad to have our buddy from the Hokies over here, and maybe we can see the Noles play Virginia Tech more often. I don't want to talk about the last time we played. That's a whole, swag surfing memory that we try to block in Nole Nation. But
that was one of the worst Hokie football teams we ever had. I was like, what are we doing?
Oh, man. I think we pretty much said, you guys are getting 24 points and you're getting out of here whether you like it or not. My goodness. So many bad things, but it's a long ways from that. We've got a top 10 team, and I think y'all are well on the way. I'll be anxious to watch you guys going forward, and hopefully y'all knock everybody else out and play spoiler the rest of the way after we get this victory.
Yeah, outside of this weekend, we'll be pulling for the Noles to kind of close things out the rest of the way. So,
all right, man. Go Noles. We'll see y'all later.
All right. Appreciate you having me.